you have not entered the studio to record song. You just went online and download your favorite Kistania song and just embed it in your film, and you think it won't come for you?
I'm in between. I'm not quite all a girl, a woman, both in my soul. Learning to balance, learning to be in the struggle. I find the real me.
Once you use your creativity to create anything, you automatically become the author of that thing. The actor that has performed, they actually own the IP in their performance. The director that has also used his creativity, the writer, the editor, together with the person that is doing your score. Then if you are now using any third party's music as soundtrack, tomorrow they can wake up and sue you.
That sounds like a lot of contracts. My mind was just like, my God, like, that is a lot of paperwork.
Literal meaning is fire face the eyes. Ino is fire. Koju is fire meet the eye. So it means I'm brave. So for you to wait for you to like meet with fire face to face, that means
face to face.
So brave person, right? So that's,
I mean, to be honest, that literally kind of sums up your personality, because we were talking earlier about your segue to the film industry. So that name fits you very well. But because you have such an interesting journey to the film industry, as a lawyer, you chose that path and you really niched down, because like most lawyers would, at least within this part of Africa, would kind of be a little bit more broader and stay as entertainment lawyers. And entertainment covers a lot of things, you know, but to kind of build a brand specifically around film, it takes a lot of courage, because whilst that is great, but at the same time, it really does narrow your efforts to some very specific issues. And those specific issues are quite some. And I just wanted to talk to you about, you know, that gap that you saw that drove you to not just be an entertainment lawyer, but specifically a film lawyer.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, right? It's such an honor to be here and to be chatting with you about my favorite industry, which is the film industry. So thank you so much for having me. So I would say there are actually a lot of gaps, and it's not only in the legal aspect of filmmaking, but also in other aspects. And it's not a gap that is actually limited to the Nigerian industry alone. It's something that is applicable worldwide, right? So number one, there is the issue of not enough lawyers that understand the business of filmmaking and also the legal intricacies that surrounds film production in Nigeria. And for me, I believe that when you are working in an industry, it's not enough for you to only understand the legal aspect of it. You also need to understand the business aspect, which would actually put you in a better position to appropriately advise your client. So I would say one of the gaps is actually limitation in manpower, especially when it comes to film lawyers, like I've already said. Then secondly is the issue of copyright infringement. And I would associate that to, number one, lack of enough education amongst creatives in terms of copyright ownership, copyright registration, copyright protection, copyright infringement, and everything revolving around copyright. Then also, of great concern is the issue of what do you call it now? The issue of piracy. Yes. And when we talk about piracy, we all know that it's not something that is faced with the film industry alone. It is also rampant in the music industry, in content creation, anything that revolves around creative, right? It is affected by piracy. And what piracy does is that it reduces what you are actually supposed to earn from your creative work. The more you are able to exclusively exploit your work, the more money you would be able to make from such creative work. Now, just imagine sleeping in your house and someone is in Canada, someone is in US, in UK, or even close to you in Nigeria, right? Exploiting your work, exploiting your hard work, the work that you had to stay up for 3 weeks, for 2 weeks to create. And someone is just in one corner that didn't do anything, right? And the person is there exploiting your hard work, right? So that is actually a huge concern for creatives and also for me. Then also, like I said, lack of education amongst creative about the importance to actually claim ownership, right? And take legal steps to protect their creative work. So some of these issues and gaps are some of the things that actually got me into the industry. And so far, I would say it's been quite an experience. And, every day, regardless of the fact that I've been in this industry close to 10 years, I still get to learn every day. So for me, it's actually eye-opening, it's interesting, it's fun. I can't even lie. So it's been an awesome journey so far.
That's very interesting. This, the way you broke down every single thing that you just broke down regarding the gaps. And whilst you're speaking, I'm like, I think every creative needs a lawyer friend. Do you agree?
Definitely. And when I say lawyer friend, it doesn't mean friend that you won't pay, right? It's friend that you would pay. You get, as you're doing the work, make a lawyer your friend that you can always access, that you can always seek and obtain legal advice from every time that you want to take any decision that revolves around your creativity. Yes, very important.
Amazing. So I saw an article you put up on LinkedIn, and it was such a very succinct article in the way you pointed out certain things that a lawyer would do. And you went through the entire gamut of the production process, from pre-production all the way to it being right in front of the television or screens. Yeah. And there are some things that you said there that I didn't thought of, or that tugged at my heart, and I want to really talk about some of those things. There are a lot, and it's difficult to be able to cover all of that within this, but I want to point out one or two things, right? And the first thing I want to really look at really is the strategy that every person that is a filmmaker should adopt when starting its project. And one of the very most important things is, what is the best time to have a lawyer on your project? I want to make a film today. When should I have started talking to your lawyer?
Yes, so that's very easy. As soon as you come up with the idea, the next person you should be speaking with is actually your lawyer, not your creative team members, not your financiers, is actually your lawyer. And that's because you would need legal advice, right? From the early stage of your production to your conclusion stage. So, and I say that because we all know that films stems from an idea, right? And if you don't properly protect that idea, if you don't put structures in place to protect that idea, in the process of sharing it innocently, with people that you believe are your team members or are even on your side might actually take advantage of you and steal that idea and maybe even execute it before you. But unfortunately, because it's just an idea, it will be hard for you to prove that you own it. So that's why immediately you come up with the idea, the first person you should speak to is actually a lawyer, so that the lawyer will guide you in putting strategies in place to protect the idea, one, to execute the idea, two, and also to properly exploit the idea. Yes.
So I want to go a little deeper. We live in a very cultural environment, and that affects the way we relate with people. That affects the kinds of relationships that we have and how we manage those relationships. And so the relationship between a prodigy, a younger person, and a much advanced and older person has a type, has a style. You know, there's a lot of respect, there's a lot of reverence, as it were, and it's just part of our culture, and that plays in to how we present ideas, how we develop ideas, how we mature those ideas to the point and share those ideas. How do you manage a situation where, you know, you have someone that you really admire, you really respect, you really want to be a part of a project, but you don't want to scare them away with some NDA and lots of paper for them to sign? How do you find that balance? And I mean, if you've had any practical experience on that, that would be perfect to share.
Yeah, so I would say I totally agree with you in terms of the cultural impact on the way we actually execute businesses in Nigeria. And the film industry, of course, is not left out. So, but then what I always tell people is that we just need to grow from what we grew up knowing, right? We need to step aside, right? We need to think outside what we have been brought up with. So I understand that as Nigerians, as Africans, we want to maintain relationship. We don't want to appear or be seen as, we don't trust this person enough, and that's why we are making them sign contracts and doing all that. And I dare to say that because if we are considering exporting our work to the international market, right? We just need to align ourselves. We need to abide by the international best practices, right? Which is that for every business transactions you are doing, you need proper documentation, right? Especially in the film industry, you have what is called your chain of title. And without this chain of title, you would find it hard to exploit your film internationally, because everywhere you take your film, there are documentations that would be required of you. And saying that, my uncle was the cinematographer, my bestie was the one that directed the film, that's not an excuse. It's not their business. Their requirement is, we need a contract for your director. We need a contract for your cinematographer. We want to see your copyright registration. It doesn't make any sense to them that, because you are related to these people or because you have good relationship with them, it means you would not do your paperwork appropriately. No, that's not it. Or even aside that, there are ways that you approach things that it wouldn't make you look combative, right? There's a way you can present yourself and be like, I know we are friends, but this thing I'm trying to do is actually a documentation that will be required if I want to sell this project. So it's not really about our relationship. It has got nothing to do with the fact that we've known each other for the past 7 years, but this is just what I have to make you do for me to be able to exploit this work, right? So it's the way you present your documentation sometimes that determines how people would interpret what you want them to do. And at the same time, even if it's someone that you don't feel should sign NDA, or making them sign NDA will just come off funny, there are actually steps you must have taken to at least protect yourself and protect your idea. So for example, if it's a film idea, it means that you probably have your scripts, right? Or you have your treatment. One thing you can do is actually to copyright that script, so that you know that to an extent you've taken legal steps to protect the film. And while you are presenting your pitch, just chip it in there that, oh, this idea, this script is already copyrighted in my name. I got it registered maybe some few months ago and everything. I own it. Just make them know that, oh, you can't go close to stealing this idea because I've already taken legal steps. Then also, there are also technological means. Like, you can easily watermark the script such that anywhere the script is going to, people know that, okay, this idea, this script belongs to these people, right? So there are little technology. If you own content, there is content ID system on your YouTube that you can use, such that if anybody uploads your work on YouTube without your permission, you get an alert, right? That your work has been uploaded, and you know the right legal steps to take if the person didn't seek your permission before uploading your work, right? So there are just ways you can go about it, regardless of our cultural, how do I put it now? Cultural, what's the right English? Limitations. Say that. Cultural limitations, right? So
Yeah.
that's my answer to that.
I like many of the things that you said, and one thing kept ringing in my mind before anything else was when you were talking about the contracts that are even required by, every filmmaker wants to blow, pretty much. So when you've gotten as much as possible, you want to scale, and international audience is a big scale, and you talked about how some of the distributors were requiring you to show the contracts that you've had with your cinematographer and your director and so on and so forth. I'm like, for real? Like, is that a thing where you finish the film, all of that, and they still require you to show that, is it paper trail, as I would say, of the contracts that you've built up in making this film?
It's actually a thing, and a very, very important thing at that. Yes. So like I said before, it is called chain of title. So it literally means that at every stage of production, you actually own the rights to make the film. So let me give you an analogy. The two of us have come up with an idea, and we engage a writer to write the idea into a script. So the first ownership right that comes up from that is actually ours, right? But then all we had was only an idea. And like I said before, it's very, very hard to claim ownership over ideas, right? So that's why we call a writer, or we engage a writer to write the idea in form of its script. But when the writer writes the idea, the writer that wrote the idea actually owns the IP, because he is the one that fleshed out the ideas, that developed the character, wrote out the scenes and everything. The writer has already invested his creativity into bringing our own idea into life. So what do we do in that case? We made the writer sign an agreement in form of a script writer's agreement, indicating the fact that we are the one that have engaged you to write this film. So regardless of the fact that you own the creativity in writing this script, we have commissioned you. So that's what we call a commissioned work. And when a work is commissioned, the intellectual property in that commissioned work is owned by the person that commissioned the work, meaning you have been hired to do the work. So the distributors, the streamers, they are very keen on ensuring that the script that you have made into a film actually belongs to you. So they will ask you that, okay, where's your writer's agreement? Because they know that there's copyright in that script, and that copyright should be owned by you or transferred legally to you by the person that owns the film. So that's where the chase starts. Then also, when you now have this script, right, you bring people together, you bring people on board. You have the actors, you have the director, you have the cinematographer, you have all these people that have come together. We all know that film is a collaborative work, right? You bring your creativity, I bring mine. The actors bring their own performance. So all these people that have contributed to the production, they actually also have intellectual property in that production, right? That's the way intellectual property works. Once you use your creativity to create anything, you automatically become the author of that thing. So the actor that has performed, they actually own the IP in their performance. They own the IP in their image, right? So they actually have a right to claim some form of ownership over it. The director that has also used his creativity to bring this idea to life, that was the one that say, oh, party A cannot appear like this. Oh, if we use this location, it will not interpret the story the same way that we want people to understand it. You get. So that director too has an intellectual property rights to claim in the film. So at the end of the day, when you have brought all these people together, what's the next thing for you to do? You need to give them an agreement indicating that by virtue of the fact that I've paid you this so amount, you have transferred all the intellectual property in this film to me, right? That's where you get your cast agreements. That's where you get your crew agreements, right? And also, you use locations that are not yours, right? All these people that owns the location, tomorrow, they can wake up and sue you, right, for infringements that, oh, you didn't seek and obtain my permission before you used my space. Oh, my picture appeared in the location that you used, right? So you need to clear the locations that you are using to, if the locations are not your own property. They can sue you for trespass, right? They can sue you for breaking in and all sorts of civil claims that can be brought against you. So you need to ensure that you have your location agreement. Then also when you get to post to the editor, that they are using their creativity to edit the film, cutting it appropriately. Oh, the noise is too much here. No, we need to put soundtrack here. No, we need to put B-roll here. All these people too have also contributed to the film, which means they also have some form of intellectual property in the film. So you have to make them also sign your contracts, and together with the person that is doing your score. Then if you are now using any third party's music as soundtrack, you have not entered the studio to record song. You just went online and download your favorite Kiss Daniel song and just embed it in your film, and you think it won't come for you? No, you must be joking, right? Because that is his own intellectual property. So if you are using it in your film, you must seek and obtain his permission first, right? So at all these stages where you are using people's intellectual property, where people are contributing their creativity into your film, you must assure the distributor and also the streamers that all these people that you have brought their creativity together to create one film have actually given you the permission to use their work, to use their contributions in your film. And that's why you need to sign contracts with all these people. So if you can't assure them that all these people are giving you the rights, they would likely not take your film. And that's because they too understand how copyright works, and they don't want to put themselves in a position where they will be sued from left, right, and center. You know, once people see a movie on Netflix, they believe that, oh, the producer are cashed out. Netflix are paying the producer a lot of money. And when they are suing, they are not even suing the producer alone. They are suing both the producer and Netflix, because if they can join Netflix to the suit, they would definitely earn more money. And just imagine Netflix not doing their own due diligence and randomly collecting films from people. Can you imagine the number of suits that they will be facing per day? No. So they don't want to go through that stress. And of course, when you are being sued unnecessarily, your brand reputation is at stake, right? You waste time in courts defending suits. You waste a lot of money in a bid just to sort the damages that will be claimed against you. And you can actually guide yourself against all these mishaps by simply asking for the right documentation for the film production. So before a Netflix, before an Amazon, a Canal Plus collect your film, they are requesting for all these documents to protect themselves against any copyright infringement suits.
That sounds like a lot of contracts. My mind was just like, my God, like that is a lot of paperwork.
Yes, it's actually a lot. But funny enough, if you're even doing Netflix original, right, they even have these templates. So not even just any random template that you can use for a Netflix original, but that's if it's an original. But if it's your own project that you just intend selling to them or licensing to them, then you can always use any contract you have, but you must use a contract because they would request for it at the point of licensing your project. But then if you are doing original for them, their requirements are even, it's crazier than if just your normal thing that you're shooting.
So, so I was really thinking to myself, that this kind of requires a whole re-education when it comes to the way filmmakers work. Because if there's this amount of work that's required to protect your work and at the same time put yourself in the right posture to be able to get the best opportunities, there has to be a way that a filmmaker has to position themselves, even as a small filmmaker, that they are in a better position to be able to leverage whatever it is that they have done. And there are so many key components, people that make up a film set. I mean, from your set designers to your, makeup and so on and so forth, to the runners. There's so many key people that make things work. And to not pay attention to those key people at the early stages, we just be building bad character and bad habits pretty much. And so I'm thinking to myself, what are some of the things that you encourage filmmakers who feel like it is a lot, it's too much? What can they do on a smaller scale that is both practical, but at the same time the right thing that sets them up for success? And let's pick an example because there's so many different areas, right? Well, let's go back all the way back to the start of the film when they are creating the script and then dealing with the script writer. How can someone who is trying to fund the film, make a film, and say, hey, I'm working with this scriptwriter, my friend, is there something that they can set up personally amongst themselves to be able to make sure that they are doing the right thing legally, so that when they get to the point of having to do more, they know that they have that front is covered? And what kind of posture should a filmmaker generally have when it comes to working with anyone within a creative space? Because I think that what you have talked about right now, I like to look at it as a mindset and a character posture that should define how you should do things. And without that general mindset, you always find yourself in a place where you're always, we should have done that. You now start running around chasing people to try and fix something that you should have just done much, much, much earlier down the line.
Yeah. So, like you rightly said, it's actually a mindset thing, and it's also a practical thing. So I will start by saying that you need to start from making yourself understand that film business is actually a business. It's not just a hobby, right? It's not just because it's called entertainment that is just fun. No, it's not. And it is actually the way you take it that people would also take it. So, and I say that because some filmmakers, they don't even have something as small as a business registration. Their film production name is not registered, right? And not to now talk of trademarking the name or talk of using contracts when they are shooting or when they are making the film, right? So like you said, it starts from the mind. But I would not disregard the fact that there are a lot, in fact, majority of filmmakers out there that cannot afford some of these very, very high-level documentations that might actually come as expensive as they appear, right? But then one thing you should always remember is that business is business, right? One. Number two, if it is not written, it can be contested. So, just build the mindset of always documenting every relationship, every transactions, document it. It doesn't have to be a 20-page contract. It doesn't have to be a 50-page contract. It can even be as small as an email to say, sequel to the conversations we had earlier, right? Kindly confirm that you have agreed to write our script within 14 days upon the payment of 200,000, and then you transfer all your ownership rights in your script to us. Something as simple as an email, and that neatly covers all the terms of the arrangement between the two of you. There's nobody that will see that, and the person would respond to say, okay, that's true. I acknowledge the receipt of this email, and I accept that this exactly are the terms that we have agreed to. Simple as that, right? And if anything happens, if anything goes wrong, you can always screenshot that email and maybe share in court as evidence to prove that, you indeed engaged this person and you paid the person the money. But the thing is, with the way technology is these days, anything can be manufactured with AI. So now, it now behoves the other party to now disprove this. If the person actually has an overriding evidence to prove that, maybe you didn't pay me, or maybe you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and this rights didn't actually pass to you. You get? So you don't want to rely on just an email. That's why having a proper contract is actually always advised. Then also, you can also follow experts. So, people like me, people like other people that practice film law, we live in a digital world where people are always excited to share information. Thankfully, we met on LinkedIn, right? And we're here. And that's how people meet. And I share a lot of educative content on how filmmakers can protect their film, right? Why you should copyright your film, why you should trademark the name of your brand, contracts that you have to put in place, and even terms that must be included in your contract. You get? So when you follow experts in the field that share knowledge, that share nuggets, you would also learn from that. Let's say you're not able to afford to pay a lawyer for a proper legal consultation, right? That's one thing you can always do. And also, just generally work with people that you trust. Right? People that that to an extent, these people, they have dignity, right? And they understand the need to always do right by you. Don't go and just work with any random person. Before you work with people, do your own due diligence. The last project that this guy worked on, what was his behavior? How did he act? Did he come to set on time? Was he unruly? Was he rude to everyone on set? All these things are small due diligence that you can do at your own level before actually venturing into any film related transactions. And I hope that works.
Said a lot of amazing things, but one thing that you said, short and sweet. If it's not written, it can be contested.
It can be, yeah, true. It can be contested.
Amazing. OMOTAYO, we've had some time to talk, and because of the limitations of the internet, we can't stretch this conversation as much as I'd love to. But there's one more thing I wanted to get into before we call it a wrap. And I think for me, I've been looking at the way there's a gap, and we started this conversation about the gaps. And there is a gap, particularly right now, with the way African films are being distributed to a global audience. And especially with the whole Netflix saga, that happened a couple of months ago. And just the outcome of that, where there seems to be almost like I want to pick the right word, but it almost feels like uncharted territory when it comes to distribution as to how a filmmaker can get his film from his studio, from his editing booth to filmmakers, or rather to an audience all across the world. From a legal perspective, I want to talk about what filmmakers should be doing to sort of not put themselves in harm's way, because when things are in its infancy, or when things are trying to find their footing, there's a tendency for people to make mistakes, and filmmakers, tend to fall the brunt of it, because we are so more focused on your baby, on the project, that you forget many other very vital things. And we've been talking about a re-education of our mind as to how we should posture ourselves. But I really want to talk about this specific unique situation that Nigeria or Africa is facing, but specifically Nigeria filmmakers, where, there is a gap, really a real big gap that has been created by the exit of this big film distribution agency, and a lot of people are trying to step in, or those who have been doing stuff before are sort of overwhelmed, and people who are currently creating, who were hoping that, hey, okay, I'm making this movie, Netflix is Nigeria, Prime is Nigeria, I am going to be able to. That is no longer available, no longer exists, it's gone. That's scary, because it does speak to the transient nature of life and business. But at the same time, there is comfort in being prepared. You cannot always prepare for everything, but if you do the right things, I guess there is comfort in that. And I want to speak from a legal perspective, with what is currently happening. What is your take on how filmmakers should posture themselves in this kind of trying time, and how they should hold on for when the next break or big season will come through?
Yeah. So, let me start by correcting an impression, right? The streamers didn't go finally. Like, it's not as if they are no longer licensing content or doing business in Nigeria at all. So it's just the business structure that has changed. So if you still go through the aggregators like the Film One, you can still get your film to a Netflix or an Amazon. And that takes us back to what you said about preparation. So regardless of where you intend your film to exhibit, be it YouTube, be it Netflix, be it cinemas, it is important for you to take steps to protect the film, regardless of where it is exhibiting in. And I know that most times when people are planning to shoot film or to make films, their choice of exhibition is always affect big budgets that they also invest in the film. So if your film is going to YouTube, of course, you will not invest as much as if it is going to a Netflix or it is going to the cinemas, right? But then regardless of the budget of the film, there are still some salient legal steps that you must take to protect the film, one, also to have an evidence of ownership over the film. So you don't just wake up the following morning and the scriptwriter is suing you in court that, oh, he owns the IP in the script, and that, oh, one scriptwriter has sold one script to 4 people, all sort of, not so interesting news that we always wake up to every morning. And for you to avoid all this story that church, there are legal steps that you must take. And number one is, it goes to the foundation of even your production itself. Your production company, is it registered? And if it is registered as a business name, or it is registered as a company? Because if it's registered as a business name, there are some risks that you are personally liable to. Meanwhile, if it is registered as a company, you will be protected against such risk. Something as little as this, some film producers don't know, right? That's one. Number two, it is one thing to register your company with CAC. Is your brand name trademark? CAC registration legalizes your business, but a trademark registration gives you the exclusive right to use the name, such that if any other filmmaker is using any brand name that is close to your own production company's name, you can sue the person for trademark infringements. That's 2. Number 3, the film you are creating, the film you are making itself, do you have contracts in place? It could be a 2 pages contract, it could be a 3 pages contract, but does it actually transfer all the intellectual property in the film to you as the owner, such that when you get to the stage where you want to sell it, you are able to seamlessly sell it because you have all the documentations required to prove ownership over the film. Then number 4, when you have your picture locked, did you copyright the film? Did you get a copyright certificate certifying that this particular film belongs to you? And I'll tell you this because recently my client called me that a distribution company, that's a website, right, was exhibiting his film without his permission. And he was so worried. What was the next thing we did? We actually wrote to the host company that hosts the website for them to take down the website. And the next thing they requested from us was his copyright certificate. What if he didn't have any evidence to prove that he actually owns the film, right? So these are the ways that you should be thinking as a film producer. These things might not appear as necessary to you now until issues come up. Then you wish that you had done the right thing. I would leave you with that.
That's fantastically and well said. Thank you so much. I think when you were, I like the clarity with which you pointed out these things, and obviously there's a ton of other issues that arise. But in the conversation that we've had so far, I find that having these conversations regularly are the things that really put you in a position to be better prepared. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation. And for anyone listening, they should check you out on LinkedIn. You put out a ton of information. I mean, I learned a lot from many of the things that you said. And it's also quite interesting to see that as our industry is growing, we are building other areas like the legal framework that you just explained. I'm very passionate about the distribution at this point in time. And I'm seeing that the work that you are doing is really shaping a whole world that will create, the stability and support that filmmakers need. OMOTAYO, thank you so much. I think going back to your name, it really does make a lot of sense that
Now we have to go back to that. Right? So we started with that. We just have to end with it.
Oh man, it really takes a lot of courage what you do. I mean, it takes a lot of, you really are facing fire every day, because just imagine having to, I hope everything's been resolved with your client, as you just mentioned. But I can imagine how heartbreaking that would have been to have.
They were actually taking down the film. They were actually taking down the thing. Yes, because we actually wrote a takedown notice to both the website and the host company. So they've taken down the film. They've taken it down. Yes.
Imagine that. And that's amazing. That's a win. That's a big win for that filmmaker.
That's actually a big win. It's actually here. Yes.
Thank you. Awesome. Also, thank you so much, OMOTAYO.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. And like you rightly said, let's keep these discussions going on. That's how we share knowledge. That's how we spread the gospel of intellectual property, of film law, and why you actually need to protect your films. Because at the end of the day, even after you've done your 90 years, your 100 years, your kids would still enjoy from this intellectual property. So it doesn't even end with you, right? It's something that your unborn children can actually gain and benefit from. So just take as many steps as you can to actually protect your intellectual property, right? Because it can give you income from generation to generation. So that's very, very important. Yes.
Mic drop. Let's leave it there.